Let's head back to the National Assembly, where the House of Representatives is proposing that all elections in Nigeria are conducted same day. This comes on a day the Parliament directed an immediate suspension of planned promotion examinations for over 1,500 staff of the National Examinations Council in Minna, Niger State. National Assembly correspondent Joke Adisa reports.
New amendments are on the table to the Electoral Act of 2022. The sponsor of the amendment bill, Francis Waibe, acknowledges the impact of the act on the 2023 general election, just as he appreciates the need to correct some obvious defects. Conduct of all 5 elections on the same day, revalidation of the voters' register every 10 years, and sanctions for frivolous petitions are some of the amendments he proposes. The sponsor believes having all elections same day will save Nigeria huge cost.
Every 10 years, there should be a fresh registration of voters, because the revalidation currently being done, Mr. Speaker, does not completely eliminate the names of dead people and those who shouldn't be on the register.
Members declare support for the bill, while a few seek clarifications.
If you ensure that the act is amended and elections results, once counted, are transmitted, and once transmitted, it reflects the voice of the people, the vote of the people, it saves our cause from the troubles of 90% of members here went to tribunals.
I will not say if I'm 18 years today, you're telling me for 10 years I'm not going to participate in an election.
The voter who comes out to vote with his voter's card that is on the voters register is allowed to vote.
Less than 20 to 25% of those who are in the books are really voting. Are we sure that the registers that we are having are really what they are supposed to be?
The House called on the National Examinations Council, NECO, to put on hold its promotion examinations slated for 14 to 15 February in Minna, Niger State, pending its intervention. The Chief Executive Officer of the Council will appear before the lawmakers to explain some issues.
Due to the security situation in the country and the economic issue biting out of the citizen, including the staff of National Examination Council, NECO, it is perilous to cost about 1,500 staff to travel from different parts of the country to one place in the name of promotional examination.
The bill passed second reading, and it is expected that a public hearing will bring together relevant stakeholders to collate their inputs and determine the fate of the proposed amendments. Joke Adisa, TVC News, Abuja.
Let's bring in Chairman, House Committee on Rules and Business, Francis Waibe. He joins me on the news at 7 to talk about this proposed bill. Good to have you join us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
So we've seen the attempt by the 10th House of Assembly at several reforms. But talk to us about the motive behind this particular bill. And I know you've talked about cost as I was listening to that report by Joke Adisa. But what else? Why is this bill being proposed?
Yeah, the underlying factors are those of credibility, those of cost, those of time, and everything that we need to move our democracy and our country forward. If you do stagger the elections and you spend more money, more security forces are required, and then you don't get a credible result, when especially INEC is now fond of postponing elections, and then the security forces are now stretched, and then you find a situation where the economy is closed down 2 different times in 1 month for just an election. And if somebody can vote 3 positions in 1 day, why can't that individual do the same for 5 positions? That's the bottom line. We need to save the cost of the elections, and we need to save the anguish that Nigerians go through just trying to vote. And I believe that Nigerians will support this when it comes to the public hearing. I'm glad that my colleagues gave their support today for the bill to pass through second reading.
And I know you have argued this based on cost and time, but some Nigerians will argue differently in terms of the logistical and security challenge that this will pose. At the moment, we have security agents who are on the field, different theater of operation, who fighting terrorism, and then you add election to that, all of the elections in 1 day. you don't see the logistical challenge that will entail, whether for security or for INEC?
No, it's even going to be cheaper in that sense, because it's the same security that you deploy on different days that you will not deploy on just one day. So you need less efforts in that regard. And then even for INEC, their logistics would also be saved. They only have to run around in one day, and then the materials they would have to provide would also be reduced by up to 50%, because all they will need is two extra ballot papers for governorship and House of Assembly that used to take place on another day. Just all they will need. Every other thing will remain the same. So every other cost that INEC and every other effort they go through on the second election will be saved. And the security personnel, you don't need to increase them. It's the same security personnel that runs for national elections that do for state elections. So doing the same they will save the security personnel all the efforts and time that they waste for doing a second one. I believe that this is the way forward. All elections in one day. And you get credible results, because people will not have the opportunity to manipulate the second election. The first election will show the will of the people. And I think that that is the way to go. And that is what our country can afford. That is what is good for Nigeria.
And when you have, because again, I just want us to look at, with all clarity, all of these issues you're raising. In off-cycle elections, we see how even with a large deployment of security officers, we still find electoral offenders. When you have that kind of deployment in general election, on the same day, have you considered that, then the security agents will be overstretched, and then a collation of results, what it will require to collate results for everyone who is, all the positions in that election?
Yeah, that is why I also propose that collation must not be at the collation centers. That's not what we envisaged in the Ninth Assembly when we passed the Electoral Act 2022. What we envisaged was electronic transmission. That's what the BVAS is for. And that is why I'm saying that the amendment now should be very specific and clear that transmission must be by electronic means. If that is done, there is no need for that collation that wastes all the time and gives room for manipulation. And then this issue of electoral officers being stretched is the same effort they'll be putting in. It's just 2 additional papers. That's all. It will be cheaper for the country. It will be safer even for INEC personnel, because you find that in most cases, after the first election, at the second election, people realize where they are losing, where they are weak, and then more violence going there. And mark you, when the entire country is involved, even those who are conducting violent actions, they are stretched because they have to be everywhere at the same time. But when you are doing off-cycle elections, you can move people from other parts of the country and concentrate on a particular place and unleash your violence. But where you are doing it nationwide, you have to face your own units. Everybody will have to be in this community. Everybody will have to be in his own polling unit. I think this is what will solve most of the problems we have with our election. And I urge Nigerians to go for it.
Well, I like that you said in your last statement, it's up to Nigerians at the end of the day. I'm sure you'll also be hearing from election observers on how they feel about this, because they are the ones who actually monitor these elections. Thank you so much for your time. Chairman, House Committee on Rules and Business, Francis Wivey.
My pleasure. Thank you.